get their final chance to register for the national elections that will take place in May next year. Now, as the country is seized with the festive holidays, the Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, is also running against the clock to make the final preparations. We talk about this and other issues with the Deputy CEO of IEC, Mr. Masego Sheburi. He joins me now live in our studios in Johannesburg. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon.
So it looks like the IEC will not have the holidays this season.
We are Christians too, so we'll have a few days to rest, to recalibrate and be back on the 3rd of January for the final push.
So Jan, the 26th and the 27th is the final chance that we have as South Africans to register.
Indeed, on the weekend of the 26th and the 27th of January, we will open just under 23,000 registration points, where South Africans can go and register as voters for the first time, or go and inspect their registration details, but more importantly, go and inspect if they have a address against their name on the voters roll, and if they don't, if they could furnish us with an address over those 2 days.
Let's just look back to the registration weekend that we had earlier this year. I think it was around March.
That's correct.
How was the response?
We interacted with about 3.2 million South African citizens over those 2 days. And out of those, we got 600 new registrations, the majority of whom were by young people.
I wanted to ask the interest of the young people in all of this.
And also for this election, we're targeting the participation of young persons because they remain worryingly underrepresented on the voters' roll. So you'll see when we launch the election next year, we'll have a youthful campaign to try to animate the young persons to be involved in the affairs that affect them.
So I suppose you're hoping for the best as well for the weekend of the 26th January?
We're planning for the best.
Yeah. So let's talk about another issue in Sheburi. We do know, of course, the IEC was taken to court, but the Constitutional Court had earlier this year granted the IEC an extension to the November of next year, 2019, in order to complete and include the addresses of all voters. How far are you with that particular process?
You'll recall that the case started in 2016. At that point, when the Constitutional Court said the IEC must maintain a voter's roll with addresses, at that point we only had about 34% of voters for whom we had addresses on the voter's roll. Fast forward 2 years later, we have over 82% of voters appearing on the voters' roll with full addresses.
From 34% to 72%.
To 82%.
But what are the difficulties? How difficult is it to verify the addresses?
The difficulties is that, as we know, our development as a country are past. There are areas where they were never formalized. There are areas where there were never formal addresses assigned. And there are areas where there are no conventional addresses. And the Constitutional Court recognizes that fact. It never said we must have absolute addresses on the voters' roll. It said we must have addresses where the addresses objectively exist. We are seized with that responsibility to get as many addresses for as many people who have addresses as possible. And for those who do not have an address, we'll ask them to sign a second form, which is an affirmation statement, to say they affirm that the description that they are providing is a description that accords to the geographic boundaries in which they are ordinarily resident.
It certainly sounds like a difficult one. But are you going to be able to meet the November deadline?
You
have to.
We have to meet. We have no option. We're working toward realizing that objective so that if we hold elections in 2021, those elections could be held on the basis of a compliant voters' roll.
Yeah, and obviously with the elections next year, it certainly will be a very interesting year. We've seen a number of new political parties coming to the fore, being launched. Let's talk about that. How many have you received applications for new political parties for next year so far?
The registration of political parties is an ongoing exercise. By this week, at our count, we had just over 600 political parties registered.
That's new political parties?
No, that is a total on the database of political parties that have been registered. That's correct. But we're also still processing a number of applications that will make decisions in the coming weeks. There are those that had been rejected, and those can appeal or they can resubmit.
Appeal on what basis? I mean, rejected on what basis?
The three categories broadly for rejecting a political party is, for example, if its name its logo and its abbreviation
similar to
mimics that of an existing political party, because if you register that, you may just cause confusions in the mind of certain voters. Secondly, is that the law does not prohibit a political party from using unsavory language in a name of a political party. Thirdly, we scrutinize the constitutions of political parties, and if a constitution of a political party indicates that the party will discriminate against certain sections of society based either on religion, gender, or any of those grounds outlawed in the constitution, we are not competent to register such a political party.
All right, so the final registration weekend, the 26th and the 27th of January, are we likely to see another registration weekend as it's usually a norm? The final one?
I can say definitively that because constitutionally an election must be held between May and August in 2019.
Yes.
And we know that the President has indicated that an election will be held sometime in May 2019. The President is yet to indicate the date on which we'll hold an election, but we are planning for an election in the earliest possible window period, which is May 2019.
All right, we'll leave it at that for now, but I believe we'll have you back in January just to remind our viewers to do the right thing and exercise their constitutional rights to go and register. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
All right.